Hey, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about how to recognize a couple differences between stress and depression. Uh, Sometimes we can call stress anxiety. I like to keep it stress because to me, anxiety can also affect children, and to me, anxiety feels a lot more valid for how it affects kids, where it's like the mystery of the unknown or something like happening outside of your control, which is why kids typically are scared of monsters or things that they don't think they can control or handle. So that tends to bring up that fear response, that anxiety, and they don't tend to feel as much stress. So you tend to see stress coming from adults. So adults stress about things, and because they stress about things, they tend to like feel it, especially in their neck, shoulder, and back. And so, yeah, that's the stress mechanism. So for me, stress comes from lack of productivity, getting things done, knowing you have to take care of your independence, your future, and your self respect. And then on the other hand, you have that lack of fulfillment. So that's also going to affect you. That's more of depression. So kids and adults both can experience depression, especially because they both have feelings. Kids struggle a little more with the stress mechanism. They can definitely have anxiety, which is that fear of the unknown. But to stress about things, they don't really have the physical capacity or mental capacity, however you want to describe it, which are a little bit or both, right? They don't have the developmental milestones to be able to worry about stress. So this mainly affects adults. Kids tend to be in their feelings and in their behaviors. So that they're pretty much habitual creatures, right? However their environment's been developed, they're gonna follow that consistency without really questioning it much. They're just kind of going along with the flow. It's when you become an adolescent that the brain starts to turn on and thoughts start to become more relevant to the whole equation. But anyways, so your stress management, the stress side of you, we can kind of break that down to call that something like positive energy, right? It's hard to rest because it's constantly making you want to shake. So, well, if we call that the positive energy, that's the energy that needs to come out of you. So, stress is like energy that needs to come out. And when you don't let it come out, it creates a nerve response. You get nervous, right? Like you're not expending that resource appropriately, so it feels like it's getting wasted. You feel like you're wasting your time. So it's important to recognize that this positive energy needs to be put into things that we tend to find negative. Going to the bank, figuring out my payments and when I'm going to pay my bills, sitting there and calculating my budget, right? Getting my car payment in order, making sure everything's on time, going to the gym, eating healthier, working on my credentials, my schooling, whatever it may be. Like working on things that I find negative. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do that. Ugh, I hate that. Ugh. Whatever I feel, whenever I'm experiencing that sensation, that dread for doing it, that's the stuff that I need to do when I'm feeling that positive energy, like I gotta do something. So that's what's gonna help you nullify, equal out those types of experiences, which may be necessary for you to get out that stress and get that stress out of you. It's meant to come out, not be held in. And that's the problem when you hold it in, it hurts you, right? Your nervous system hurts you when you hold back. So you got to let it out. Another way to know that you're stressed out is if you put your hands on the back of your head, that means you're in your thoughts. When you're in your feelings, you'll cross your arms, and when you're in your thoughts, you'll touch your head. So if you're touching your head and you're feeling the pressure in your neck, shoulder, and back, then you know that you're in your thoughts. The best thing to do is plan for some productivity, right? Plan for when you're going to work on yourself, what you're going to do for yourself. So you plan ahead of time and you put in perspective like, hey, these are the things I'm going to get done to use that positive energy in me. And again, that'll help you relax that stress mechanism, that worry mechanism. Right now you have something to hone in that energy towards. So get the things that you don't want to get done with that positive energy to get that nullified, to get that balanced. The second thing you want to look at is what depression is, which I say depression's a negative energy, a void that needs to be filled with things that you like to do. So now you got to do things that you like to do to fill up that energy inside of you. You got to follow through with like, hey, like what can I do to fulfill me? Right? I'm feeling this negativity inside. I need some more positivity in my life. So you're going to look for passions, hobbies, and interests, things that bring life to you, things that you can enjoy, right? That's the thing that you eat to take care of the soul, right? To take care of you, the kid inside. You eat your healthy dinner, right? You eat your meal prep because you need to make sure that you're meeting your goals. That's that positive, right? Needs negative. So I have to eat healthy. Might seem like a negative, but it's for your benefit. So it nullifies the positive that you need. It meets a need for a positive so that you balance that out. Same thing for a dessert, right? You might get some kind of Oreo ice cream or something. And that's your reward for completing with all of your productive needs. Now you get to enjoy and have something you want for that void inside. So that's something that you're exchanging here, is that you're getting to take care of a void because you're taking care of whatever that may be. And so this is how our negative and positive energies can affect the system. So positive, do the negative, and for negative, do the positive, right? Whatever I'm overly energized, I need to do things that I don't want to do, but I know I need to do right now. This is the time to do it. And when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling empty, I need to go put my energy towards things that I want to do to motivate me to fill up. All right, so one way is to get it out, to be relaxed, and the other way is to go get it to fill up. And that's that process that you're going to be experiencing. So this is important because this also affects sleep. So if you're not able to sleep right now, that might be one of the reasons, is that you're imbalanced. There's too much positive energy in you, or there's too much negative energy in you. And so either one, if you're feeling restless, like there's too much in your body can't rest, there you go. You have too much positive energy. You need to get to doing things you don't want to do. You need to stop avoiding the things you don't want to do and actually start engaging with them. And then for that negative energy in there, you need to start doing some positive things for yourself. You need to start getting yourself out of that hole, out of that darkness, right? You got to plan for things to let that inner child out, right? Let's do some positive things, some things that'll lift me up. Then I can feel like these things drive me. This is something that fulfills me. So we want to work on negative to get rid of the stress, and we want to work on positive to get rid of the depression, and then we get to have homeostasis. So balanced state allows you to sleep, allows you to be productive, allows you to enjoy yourself, and do it in a way where it's sustainable, right? A lot of times what ends up happening is that people don't stabilize and get in their life centered, mind, body, spirit, don't recognize the importance of alignment, and then they start to experience imbalance, and that imbalance ends up catastrophizing whatever they're experiencing, right? Because now they're going like on a roller coaster, right? They're experiencing waves, major waves, right? Instead of cruising with the water, right? So we want to make sure that we take care of both sides of the human experience so that we can feel wholeness, and that's going to help us feel more accomplished and help us get through our life challenges and circumstances. All right, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Later. Hey, guys, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about a new concept I've been coming up with. I think it really highlights the issues with the dating in today's world, specifically on the man side. Obviously, like, there's problems with both sides of the equation, but I tend to fault men more because I believe that we have a certain type of role to play, And when men are not meeting that role, society kind of doesn't work as well. I'll just be honest. So the way I kind of see a couple problems with the dating world right now. Number one, people trying to date online is the counterintuitive part to what dating really is. Because dating is a feeling, not a thought. So just to throw that out there, first off, if you're trying to date using dating apps, it's not the most effective way, because you need to feel a connection with somebody, because the idea of falling in love, or this idea of love, it comes from a connection through a physical connection. It's something that you have that you don't quite understand. It's like when you're at a venue at the club or whatever, you're out and about, and you just lock eyes with somebody, and then there's just some kind of connection that you can't explain. And that is a genuine connection. That is a relationship type of connection. So it's important to get out in the world, to explore, so that you can create genuine connections with people, unlike something where, you're making a profile and looking for a very specific type of traits. So you're dating with your mind, not with your body. So you need to date with your body, because that's the thing that connects us on a deeper level, not with your mind. Your mind's the thing that's going to look for all the problems in the relationship, right? Like, well, I don't normally go for this person, or I don't normally like these things. Like, you're rationalizing something that doesn't have ration, right? You're rationalizing feelings, and feelings have their own way of existing. So when we break it down, what do I really think is the problem right now? Well, if we look at the way we view dating, I view it very similar as far as guys go. The problem with the economy in the world right now when it comes to farming, okay? So we have this idea that, like a farmer, right? A farmer has a ton of crops, right? So if you were to compare, someone with a garden compared to somebody that has a farm, the farmer's going to have a lot more crops to work with, right? They're going to have a lot more going on. But the problem with the farmer is that every season you're going to have to get a new batch of crops. You're going to have to keep tearing down those plants, replanting everything, tearing down the plants. So you're essentially going to end up farming until there's no more soil, right? There's no more ability to grow anything here, because you've farmed it literally to death. And so when we take the same concept and we apply it to relationships, right now we have a problem where men hope to be farmers. They want to be farmers. They want to have girls and women on, droves. Like, I want to have access to a lot of potential mates, right? Or like, I want to feel empowered because I have this farm, right? All these crops that I can pick from. The problem with that is, just as much as the farmer lacks some kind of like connection with these plants, it's going to happen in real life too. Where, yeah, you might have access to all these women, all these different girls that you can say you pulled or you whatever, right? But at the end of the day, that connection's almost as shallow as a farmer with its crops. There's no genuine connection there. It's a means to an end. And again, every season, you're just going to have to what? Do the same thing. And the reality is, that's too much crop anyways for one farmer. I mean, you think about that, right? There's too much food here for one person, right? This is too much. There's a lot going on here. And for what? There was no genuine connection. There was no fulfillment. Yeah, you fed yourself, but there was no flavor. Like, there was no soul to it, Now, if you compare that to somebody that is a gardener, right? Somebody that is taking care of their plants, understanding their plants, building a genuine connection with their plants, that's going to be a different type of equation, a different type of story. So what I see and what I recommend is that men create a garden when it comes to finding a partner, right? You create something where it's sustainable, but it gives you your basic needs, and it gives you a deeper connection. You make connections with the plants that you raise in your garden, right? You've had them for years, and you've watched over them, and they've provided for you, and you've provided for them, and you create a really genuine experience, because this garden that you're planting is going to give you the same amount of fruit and vegetables necessary to survive than a farm would, except the farm has a bunch of consequences that come with it, especially the fact that, again, you are creating a system where there's really no soul to it. It's just, again, it's just a number. You're just meeting a quota. You're like, yeah, I got all these girls farmed out, right? But for what? At the end, for what? It doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't create sustainability. It literally poisons the ground after a while. If you keep farming the same crops, at some point, they're not going to grow anymore. You literally are going to dry out, dust out the farmland because it's not natural. And really, farming in general isn't very natural, to be honest. Because if it was natural, our plant system wouldn't deplete the ground so much that you literally can't grow things. So it's a lot better if everybody just had a garden. If everybody wants to be a farmer, then we're going to be in an apocalypse, just like the Dust Bowl, right? Like, what happened when farmers were over farming their land? It literally created a dust bowl, right, where nothing grew. And I feel like we're heading to that now. We're like in a sort of dust bowl where nobody trusts anybody. Everybody wants to obtain things that they don't even know if they're good or bad for them. But again, because society keeps putting this image, this is good for you. This is what we need. Like, even the idea of farming, okay? Like when they tell us that, look at the most basic American stereotype, the farmer, right? Farming has fucked our life up. It has fucked up everything. Like, this idea that farms are good, they're not even that good, to be honest. And so this idea that we want a bunch of guys that are, putting women in positions where they're using them as a crop is not conducive to a healthy society. It was called the Garden of Eden, not the Farm of Eden, because the garden requires time, energy, attention, compassion, love. Farmers don't have love for their plants. They're a profit. They're a consumption. They're a commodity, right? But a gardener has years of love for its plants, has a deeper understanding of what its plants need, understands when a plant is going through something that they're in it for the long run. They're not seeing it as like a replaceable profit margin. They're seeing it as a genuine connection. So if you really want to change the dating world, start dating like you're building a garden. Don't date like you're building a farm, right? Because at the end of the day, one is going to lead to a soul-fulfilled experience, and one's going to lead to a lack of any kind of fulfillment and ongoing emptiness. Because again, every year you're just going to have to what? Keep getting a new batch of crops. Yeah, I got a new batch of crops, but what's really the difference? It's all the same. But when you have that garden that you've seen grow from nothing to a fully flourishing, an ecosystem, well, you built that. And you have a genuine connection with it. And no one can say they have a garden like yours because your garden is unique to you. Unlike a farmland, like everyone can have a farmland. Everyone can have a farm. Like that idea of the same crop over and over. Anybody can do that. But to grow a genuine garden, that takes a special type of person. All right, guys, go out there, build your gardens, figure it out. Take it easy. Hey guys, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about one of the concepts I've been thinking about that helps us kind of understand how we are so connected with this universe, right? Like how much our lives are intertwined with that's outside of our own realm, even our own understanding. And when you put some of these things together, it really starts to create a really beautiful, kind of elegant way of processing our own existence, right? So, one of the things that you'll hear about, especially when it comes to being a human being, is that our material, the things that we have, the things that are us, that make us who we are, all come from a star that died at some point, right? We know that stars take a very basic element and they compound them into making multiple different elements, right? So it's working to literally fuse. It's a fusion reactor, right? It's a creator. It literally is designed to create, right? So we have these things called stars that are giant vessels of creation, and they use their own energy, their own resource to literally create things into matter, right? So they're so large, like they're larger than life, right? That they eventually collapse within themselves to create nuclear fusion, which is that glow, right, that they have. So this process is happening, and they're little by little using their own life force to create things again into matter, which is what we do as human beings. We literally use our own spiritual energy and we heighten it and focus it to make things matter in this world. We make things come into existence by focusing and harnessing our spiritual energy, right? So we have every day we wake up a certain amount of energy that we're able to access and use. We can call this willpower, as you could say, spiritual power. And when you take this spiritual power into consideration and you apply it to the things that are going on in your life, then you can see that you can make things literally come into existence by putting in your own effort, energy, right? Your time, energy, and attention is what I call spirit, time, energy, and attention. So when you put your time, energy, and attention into a project, into learning a new skill, you will literally gain value the more that you put into it, right? And so again, the stars are doing the same thing. They are using their own life resource to make things matter in this materialistic world. So one of the interesting concepts that I find fascinating is every culture for a long time, even nowadays, right, we still use it to some extent, is we look at the stars to tell the stories, right, that we want to tell here from the earth, right? So, like, maybe you collect a certain amount of constellations and you can see a horse or a buffalo or a person or an object. And we used to tell these stories, right? We used to, look at these different constellations and we would literally describe stories using these stars, right? So all the constellations that you see out there, at some point in human history, we would use those to tell, again, a unified story, to express, storytelling, to understand and map out the world that we live in. So we were literally using outer space to help us understand inner space, right? To help us tell this story. Well, what I find fascinating about that is as we're telling stories about these stars are turning into our stories, right? So there's a star out there right now that we are looking at, that we are producing our stories, right? We are using it to baseline or kind of like initiate a whole, type of existence, right? Just based on its existence. So again, when you look at, for example, the constellation of Orion's Belt, there's a whole slew of stories that come along with that, right? The Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, these basic constellations where you start being able to tell stories using these constellations, these consistencies above us. And this same thing applies to us because, again, when you look at the way we do that, we are the stories for these different stars. We are star material. We are universal material, literally, right? They died. Their death represents the birth of our existence. So a star literally had to burn itself out of existence for us to be here and now tell our version of that story. So if you think about it, the stars are programming themselves in a way to tell further stories. So when you ask yourself where source is, well, look at the stars for an example of where source would be coming from, right? Because we have a symbiotic relationship with even our sun, right? And our sun could be a byproduct of a giant star that one time died for our existence. So not only for us to be here, because again, the material that we have is already heavier and denser than whatever is on the sun, because again, hydrogen is the lightest material, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, this sun, this sun with us is also a byproduct of what we were, right? Because again, this star could have been the reason why it's even in existence, is because a larger star died so that this little star could be here. And this size star is big enough for us to exist in this little ecosystem that was, again, pre-calculated when that first star died. So really, like, when the reason we're so connected with this universal plane is because we use the universe to tell our stories, and the universe uses itself to tell its stories the way we are, right? So again, that star that died is the reason why we're able to have this life that we have now. It had to spend a baffling amount of years just grinding, loading, right? Like calculating everything into existence, right? Making sure that everything, all the materials would be appropriate enough for this planet to be here, for all these souls to be here, for this existence to be here, all this energy to be here on this planet had to be planned in a previous sun. So even when you think about, our existence and the sun that we have now, well, this sun wasn't even, if you think about it from that perspective, this isn't in the original sun we even come from. This is actually a sun that's part of our journey too, right? But again, when we look at like how light and dark works, light always wins, right? The only way you have darkness is when you have absence of light. So light immediately wins. Truth wins. Source always wins, right? You don't have to convince a star that it shines. It shines in its own way. It has its own existence. It knows, right? How do you take away its shine? You can't, right? You can't turn it off. You can only block it, suppress it, but you can't turn off light. Like true source of light, you can't turn it off, right? That's not how light works. It exists on its own plane of existence, right? So again, just something to think about when you're looking at the universe and looking how we're all connected, that these stars that we use to tell our stories are the same stars that are used to tell our stories, legitimately. So we're intertwined with these different systems that exist because, again, at the end of the day, our material to create whatever this is, this body, this ability, whatever you want to call this creation that we are, this can only exist because, again, there was a star that burned itself into material and no longer exists today so that we could have the ability to have conscious state on this planet, right? We have the ability to have conversations, be intellectual, process our emotions, live in a 3D world, right? Live in this 3D existence, within the spiritual realm as well, right? Connected to the divine. And again, all because a star died so that we could live. So just something to think about. We're heavily connected with the universe, heavily connected with stars, heavily connected with the cosmos. So just to know, their stories are our stories, and our stories are their stories. And it's one and the same. Take it easy, guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye. Hey guys, Sebastian back with another video. And today I want to talk to you guys about a topic that is really affecting the way we exist in our society currently, in the world, and the way we operate as far as a civilization, and really the bigger picture of what's going on in this world. And I think it's important for us to understand that there are some deeper problems happening, especially with the political discourse that's going on, with the recent really traumatic events that have happened in our society, and just the way things are going. I think it's important to recognize some of the key factors that connect us in this world with other people, regardless of what nation they come from. There are some commonalities between how we're treated. And once we really look through the veil and see what the underlying operating system is, I think it gives us a lot of perspective on how to operate within the system, especially once you know what players are going on within this system. So what I like to talk about is that when you think of the different countries that exist, the different borders and stuff, there's something that comes to mind for me. And it's the idea that each one of us, when we're born in a country, we are provided with a birth certificate or some kind of number or like serial number, like some kind of identification, right? And this got me thinking that in the world, we also give identifications to every like cow in a ranch, right? So all the cows are getting branded or identifiable, right? Some kind of code. So the purpose of this is so that if this animal was to leave the property of that ranch, they would know where to take that cow back to. Now, what's fascinating to me is this same process happens to people when they leave their country of origin, right? So when you leave your barrier, you're also brought back to this place, and you are a subject to that place. So you must adhere to the rules of this place. And so if you really look at a ranch, well, there's not much of a difference in the way a ranch operates and the way we operate within a country, right? So when you look at people like livestock, then everything goes down to profit margins, how much we're making, how effective is the system, like a factory almost, right? And like a lot of ranches could be seen as factories, right? You have to go through a process. There's some kind of system involved. There's machine involved. Like there's like some kind of way to utilize the energy that's being produced to produce product, right? And when we look at that within a country dynamic, a societal dynamic, we can talk about the GDP and different types of, numbers that come to like jobs, income, all these different factors, right? That are all money based, right? So we can talk about the stock market and all these things. And again, this sounds a lot like a ranch, right? Where at a ranch, the main focus of the entire experience is, again, to bring up that economy, right? To get profit margins in. And if you think about the cows that are being used in that ranch, any of those cows that are not producing to the quality that the ranch requires is going to discard of them, right? The difference between a sanctuary and a ranch is a ranch has outcomes. A sanctuary is at a net loss because the idea is that it's supposed to be keeping the animals safe. It's supposed to be keeping them healthy, appropriate, doing what they need to do. When we live in a system where they're literally at a positive, right, where they're trying to make income, they are going to put the cows in the most minimal necessary environments to get the most out of those animals. So the whole idea, it's a production line. And when you apply that again to the real world, you start to realize that the people that are at a certain at socioeconomic status or power status, you could call it, they are the cattle. They're not going anywhere. They're going to get used by the system. They are going to get slaughtered. Their essence is going to be utilized, right? And they need the cows to keep making more cows so they can keep what? Using the cows to slaughter, using the cows to get the process through, right? So when we have this power dynamic, we have the countries that are like ranches. We have the people in there that are like the livestock. Literally, it's called livestock, right? Live, us, stock, how much of us is there. And if you gain a certain level of power, a certain level of influence or money, you no longer have a border. The world is your border. You may go anywhere. So there's a level of success, power, that lets you live beyond borders. It lets you live a free life away from the control, right? You are the controller. And so when we take this into consideration, the idea of why is this happening? Why are we in a situation that we're all living in apartments? We're all living like little herded animals, like chickens, right? We're all being put in little rooms and literally drained to the maximum, right? What do they do to these chickens? They provide them all these chemicals to what? Make them the most effective chicken within a coop, within that little cooped up spot, right? So what can we do to get these chickens to grow the fastest we can, to get the most out of them and then discard them. So the faster they can get us to grow up, the faster they can get us to start consuming and producing, the quicker this is going to go. The quicker they're going to get through us. And again, they're not trying to feed those chickens the most quality food. No, they're trying to make the chicken last long enough to get the most amount of whatever it is out of this chicken, which is work, which is energy, which is time, which is attention. Literally drain your soul. And so that's the system we live in now. We live in a system that treats us like cattle. And people willingly give it up because they are so ignorant to understanding how to have self-actualization, how to take back this power, how to understand that your soul, your time, energy, attention, your spirit is no worse than anybody else. It's the same. We have the same. But when everybody is giving their energy to somebody else, you are empowering this person. You are providing this person with power they did not have. Because again, it's like the idea of power in numbers, right? Well, the more that you give your time, energy, and attention to somebody else, the more valuable this person becomes. So really, if you start taking back your power, start investing in yourself, little by little, you will raise your own value. You will reach an enlightenment. You will reach beyond living within this system, right? You don't have to give in your soul to these soulless companies that want to keep consuming, right? You don't have to give your time, energy, and attention to people that only feed off of you for their own success. Because again, these people only have power to the power that we are willing to give up our own. So remind yourself, when you feel that you're living in a world that's against you, you're just feeling like a cow that's stuck in a ranch that's draining their milk and they have no way to leave. And they have to stay there. And they're forced to do this work. They're forced to sit there and take it. Why? Because there's no other option, and that's all they know. They don't have consciences. They don't have the sentience to make an active change. They're going to follow through with whatever is being in front of them. So, remind yourself to turn your feelings on, to validate this, because this is the subjective, and then to use your thoughts, because this is how you escape this trend. So when you have a bad habit, you got to use your thoughts to break the bad habit, to make that active change. So before you go give your energy, your time, your attention to somebody who is not going to value it, think twice how you can reflect on your own, build yourself up, and value your own outcome. That way you're not dependent on others. All right, take it easy, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Later. Hey, guys. It's Sebastian back with another video. And today I want to talk to you guys about something that's been coming up lately for what's going on with our economy. Why are we in such a horrible position? And just some ways to break down what people are experiencing, why they're experiencing it, some of the core challenges that we're facing, and then better understanding like what you can do to change your outcome and really start to reconsider the way you operate within this society, especially as it gears away from, enabling people to support themselves and again, becoming more reliant on a bigger system that doesn't actually support them. So when we break down what's going on, right, we're having a really hard time with jobs, opportunities, filling things up. So we're just struggling with being able to get people to a productive level where they're able to sustain their livelihood, their basic needs, doing tasks that they have been conditioned or trained to be able to do. Well, the problem with what's happening right now is this issue actually predates this entire problem, right? This entire problem that we're facing as an economy, as a country, has to do a lot with our history. Now, specifically, what part of our history? When we go back far enough, there is a type of issue that comes up for education where the education system was bought out many years ago, and it was tailored and created to produce a very specific type of worker. So when we look at the education system as a totality, right, you start to see that there's some issues with the way it operates because, well, theoretically, it really operates just like a work environment, right? It has, bells and whistles to tell you when to do certain things throughout your day. It's constantly kind of reminding you to stay on track, stay on, responsibility, stay on task. It rewards people that question less and just put, to get to work or put in the work to get things done immediately. The another thing that you're going to see about the school system is typically when learning is involved, people are generally asking questions, right? They're asking things, like, hey, how does this function? Or, hey, how does this operate? Or, hey, can you explain this in more depth? Because they're seeking to fill gaps within their insight amongst the whatever topic that is at hand, right? So they're trying to really investigate within themselves to see, hey, what am I missing here, right? So when a professor says something like, well, read your notes, right? That's not helping the person gain knowledge the way they need to, right? And so what's the purpose of education is to educate ourselves, right? But what you're noticing is there's going to be some problems with education when you're getting instructed, not educated. The way that they operate within the instruction realm is that they instruct you to find answers for them. They instruct you to look up information that they are asking you. So because of the way they're asking you to seek out information, it's actually the way that you're receiving that information. And again, the things that you're learning are being modified to a way where you're just retrieving information to answer a question versus ask questions to understand the topic and self-reflect on it, right? So when we break down the information to we're being instructed, not educated, it makes a lot of sense why a lot of the information that you're being taught throughout your time in school doesn't actually benefit long-term learning. It's very limiting on what you're actually learning. Most of the core tools that you need for learning, you're going to learn pretty early on, right? Basic reading comprehension, basic arithmetic. But most of the things that you're learning about, especially with history or certain topics in chemistry, certain things you're not really going to be working with throughout your life, depending on what you decide to do. Is it good to have basic knowledge of certain things? It is good to have basic knowledge. But again, it's how are the people being taught about this basic knowledge and how are they receiving that information that's really critical for their overall outcomes, right? So in order for people to really gain insight, they need to be able to ask the appropriate questions to, again, fill in the gaps, fill in the blanks in knowledge that are going to help them connect the pieces to really feel that they understand the topic that's being presented. If people are just regurgitating things that they memorize, that's not true ways of understanding knowledge or learning. You're just, again, repeating back a type of pattern recognition that you have, but that pattern recognition doesn't equate to what you know about the topic and how you can critically understand what's being presented in front of you. So a big issue that we're facing right now, again, is that we're living in a society that does not value actual learning. It does not respect humans for how they actually learn. It is conditioning humans to work in a very specific type of environment. Again, one that you're given instructions, you're being rated or graded on the type of instruction that you follow through. You are showing that you're able to comprehend information, so you're being provided with a grade of how much retention you have. And then again, can you follow a certain inside of task and a certain behavior mechanism? Can you follow feedback? Can you handle all things related to being in a work environment, not necessarily following what you're good at, right? What you were built to do, but what you can fit within a category. In the past, before we had the school system, people would either get an internship, gain some kind of natural ability over time, and they would look for ways that they could interact within the system that was at hand using their own passions, their own interests, their own energy to provide a way for themselves. They would benefit from the way they were already built, and they would ask the right questions. They would hang around the appropriate people, and they could develop a business or whatever they wanted to, their story, using their own abilities to find information, to educate themselves, to become the jack of the trade that they felt they wanted to do. So they would gain their own experience to then have that experience be what promotes and perpetuates their existence. What's happening now is we live in an environment where they are building factory workers, okay? We are being treated like factory workers. We are being conditioned to be factory workers. So when you get a high school diploma, a GED, really that's a glorified way of saying this person can be put in a factory. This person meets basic requirements to be put in some kind of conveyor belt, right? Some kind of operating system. They're able to retain and regurgitate information. The biggest issue with this, though, is we have a critical problem happening right now in the United States. They don't have factories anymore. So this school system that was created during a time when factories were actively something important within the economy. It was a way where there was a guaranteed way that if you got your high school diploma, if you showed that you could be consistent and capable, that once you achieved that degree, right, of success, right, that degree, that you would be able to fit right into a manufacturing job, a factory job, where you were going to be able to stick to what you were able to do in your little zone to gain your little favoritism within the company and be able to do your role within a controlled manner consistently and actually provide enough for your family to live a happy life. And again, your specialty was that you were able to produce a good within a reasonable level of quality. We don't have that anymore. We have factory creations, right? Factory producing environments, yet no factories to go to. And that's really the problem that we're facing, is that you keep making factory workers for places that they can't go to work. It's like creating a cattle ranch next to a vegan village, a vegan city. Like, who are you going to sell this beef to? Ain't nobody around. So when you remind yourself, why is this economy so screwed? We keep producing factory workers for factories that don't exist. I wonder what's going to happen. And remember this, having a retail job is not a factory job, because at least a factory job gave you some kind of stability and some kind of insight on how to get better at what you do. Here, you're at the mercy of somebody else for a dollar bill, and that's all you are. There is no limit there. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Later. Hey guys, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about an element of life that I feel is very important to our existence, to the way the system in the universe operates. And it's one of those things that the more that I've looked into it and think about it, the more it makes sense. There have been other religious identities that have, saw this same concept as an important part of our existence, and that is the element of time. So for me, time is the element that holds and sustains everything together, right? So for anything to exist in this world, it requires some level of change to happen, to occur, whether it's space, whether it's transformation. Everything is connected through time. Like, everything takes time to get to, but everything, if you give it enough time, is connected, right? So time is the element that is universally experienced by everybody. Nobody has control over it. Nobody can touch it. No one can do anything, but and it goes in one direction. It only flows one direction. And that's the element of time. And to me, time is the representation of a higher power, in the sense that in order for anything to exist in this world, you have to give it time. And everything is always in motion. And in order to be in motion, you have to have time. Because if you were to take away the element of time, there is no motion to be had. Because motion needs to be shown over time, miles per hour, right? Per hour. and hours are made up time intervals that we created based on something that we can't even see. We can't actually touch it, but it exists, and it affects everybody and everything has a pattern, right, with time. So for me, really understanding that time is an important element, and it heals everything. It is part of how everything is created. This universe, everything that has been, has required time to get done. And what's the one thing that we could say is infinite? Time, right? Because I have a philosophy that if we do have a big bang and we do have a great squish, well, there's an element there that never goes away. And it is the element of time. Even if the universe is to squish itself back up, right? Start from scratch, start fresh, and we're just kind of starting from the beginning. Even if it was to do that, in order for change to happen, the collapse to happen, the realignment to happen, the existence within itself, right? All the corks pushing together, everything pushing within itself, all these things. Well, it still needs time to do all of that. Time is the consistency that holds every universe, everything together. It is a consistent flow that, again, is not controlled by us, is outside of this realm of existence. But it is a force that connects everything together. And that is why the truth will reveal itself with time. Everything will come out over time. All realities will present themselves over time. The laws of existence, regardless of what time frame it is, are always going to be universal. So for me, if we really want to think about the, example of what a God would look like, or proof that God exists, for me, proof is that there is this thing that controls time that is beyond our capacity to regulate, right? So if the great squish happens and another great expansion happens, and this process plays out over time, then again, this is the one thing that keeps all universes the same. Regardless of whatever universe you're in, you have to have time, because time is the most basic element for creation to happen, right? Even our development from infancy up into adulthood follows a certain frame of time, right? And that is the key, is the time frame, right? So for me, again, having a higher power is this connection, this understanding that time is an element created by a force higher than ourselves to sustain reality in the form that it is right now, in the form that it moves forward, it moves in a direction, and the forward that you're seeing things that start from a seed, expand out, and then kind of go through like a cycle, right? Like the great expansion, even us, right? We go back to what? Back to the basics, back to the center, back to the core. So time is super important if you want to understand how to develop self. Even the conscious idea of wanting to be a better you requires ongoing effort with time. If you want to trust somebody, you have to be consistent over time. If you want to learn something, you have to give it the time to learn it. If you want to change the chemical wiring in your brain, it's going to take time. If you have an injury in your body that you need to alleviate or heal, it's going to take time. And that is another thing you cannot take back. You cannot take back your time. You can only go one way with it, right? So for me, again, this fifth element, the element of time, is the thing that exists amongst everything. Everything in this world is affected by time. And so again, for me, a higher power is something that is intertwined with the entire universe. And this entire universe is intertwined with time. Everything here took time to make. And everything here will take its course in time in its existence until it is no longer its time. And the idea of infinite universe is like, the idea of that is, okay, so how do we explain when time started or ended? And this is where humans start to struggle, right? Because there is an idea or a concept, like, where does a circle start and where does it end? Let's say you've been living in a circle, or even like a sphere, like a fish tank, right? It's like, it's a circle or it's a ball. The idea is that it never has a start or end. It just keeps going. And that is why these certain shapes, so sacred geometry or certain shapes, will express this to us, that, hey, there is an element here that is beyond our understanding, just like a circle, right? It said this idea that this circle's always just been there, and it's going to keep being there, and it's going to reshape itself a million times, because just like as much as a kid could get up every day and create a new adventure story and create a new existence, a new timeline, right? That's process is already playing out now. This is just one of many lives I've lived. This is just one of many existences that it has been. I just happen to be in this one right now. This is the patch update. This is the existence update. This is the universe that I was put into, or I was selected for, or whatever, right? I'm here. And so again, the element that is out of my control is time. And that's why spirit, for me, your spiritual energy is your time, energy, and attention. So energy and attention are things that we can control, but time is something out of our control. But again, that is a connection that we have with our higher power, is that time element, right? That is the connection. That is the idea that God is always with me. God is always on time, or the universe is on time, whatever you want to call this entity, right? This existence outside of self. It's all about time. Everybody wants your time. The devil wants your time. Demon wants your time. Everybody wants your time. They want you to provide them your time. Because again, that is the most sacred element that you can give anybody. So what is your time worth? So just thought I'd show you guys and share with you guys some concepts about how time really is another element that we exist under. If you were to freeze time, if you were to like take away time, nothing could exist, because everything would just blend together and be a state of existence, and it would it would freeze, right? And even then, if you were to freeze the world, if you were to freeze all, nothing could exist, because in order for things to exist, they always have to be in constant motion. All right, guys, I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Later.